Hey everybody! We just wanted to take a little bit of time and introduce you to the Flipped Classroom. Your student's going to be partaking in what we call the Flipped Classroom, or what educators call the Flipped Classroom. So I thought it was important that we describe it a little bit so that you're maybe not as hesitant, or maybe if you have questions, you can talk to us about it. But my name is Dave Walsh, and I am teaching honors chemistry, or I'm teaching your honors chemistry students this year.
I am Jake Weingrad, and I will be student, teacher, and then teaching your students this year.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the flip because I think that there's a couple of important points to bring to light when we're doing this. First of all, the format is that your student is going to watch videos at home. Yes, so if your student says, oh, I have to watch YouTube for homework, it's very likely to be the case for my class, or for this class. And the reason is that you don't need a teacher to go over notes with a student. The technology is good enough nowadays that you can just really go over your notes, provide a PowerPoint presentation, talk, present in the same format as this is, kind of the notes. And so what that does then is that it frees up time in class where students aren't going over the notes or writing notes or getting caught up on writing notes. The time in class that would be used to write notes really turns into time in class where I can interact and Mr. Weingrad can interact, and we can talk to your student and ask them questions and try to figure out where they're having troubles, especially with a really hard subject like chemistry. That is typically considered maybe a really hard thing.
Yes.
Right? And so I think that it's also interesting to point out that students will be doing a lot of chemistry this year, maybe even more so than in a traditional like note and lecture lab science class, because there's going to be a lot of time. And by doing chemistry, I want to make sure that I clarify this. It's not just doing labs and blowing things up and, watching things happen, but it's also writing about chemistry and reacting to chemistry and discussing chemistry. So when I say we get to do chemistry more often, keep in mind that do chemistry may be other things than just, blowing things up.
Not just mixing chemicals.
Yeah, and so Mr. Weingrad, it's interesting because he never even heard of the flip model before he came here.
No.
And he's been at Collingswood now for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is. And I wanted to just ask him a question, and then he can talk about Flip Classroom however he wants. But in the first 3 weeks, we haven't taken a note. But so what's been going on? What's been going on for these first 3 weeks?
Students have been exploring the classroom. They've been exploring the lab equipment that they will be using. We've been doing a lot of group activities where we're building really a team in our classes. So we've been doing a lot to cultivate this classroom, and so they've been doing quite a few mixing of chemicals, despite us saying that they won't be doing only mixing of chemicals
Right.
for chemistry. There has been quite a bit of that taking place.
I would say even just 3 out of 4 days this
Yeah.
week, we've been doing that sort of stuff.
Far more than I ever expected. There's far more actual chemistry happening here than I ever thought was possible.
Right. And so what else then?
So, I mean, the beauty of it is that instead of bringing homework home and struggling through problems at home, the students will be doing any work like that in class. So if they're having problems, they can not only talk to their partners and learn from each other, but they can grab us and we can help them learn and facilitate any lessons that are taking place.
Yeah, in class, right?
In class.
Yeah, the home is kind of for the, I don't want to say the easy stuff, but copying down those notes.
It's very easy.
Yeah, it's not difficult work to copy down notes.
No, the real learning still takes place here when they're doing,
right?
Not the act of writing things down, but the act of doing and putting what they've written down to use.
Right, and I think that one of the maybe misconceptions that, not you, but you plural, that people have about the flipped classroom is that it's just an online class.
Right, and
but
it's
it's
not.
not. Definitely not.
It's not.
We're able to do activities a ton now,
Yeah.
as opposed to, once, maybe twice a week.
It's an in-person class that's supported by online learning. It is
Right.
not an online course supported by in-class learning.
Right. I think that that's a really great way of I've never heard it described that way before, so I think that's an awesome way to talk about it. So I wanted for us to kind of explain some of the things that you can do as a parent to help out your student. I think that in chemistry, maybe not even just in chemistry, but for any class, if you want to get involved in their learning, this allows that to happen a little bit better because they're watching those videos at home and interacting and taking notes from them. So it's a little easier for you to pick up what's going on because not everybody knows chemistry, and that's fine. But that's like the low level learning that's going on there. And then kind of the higher order exploding and doing and making and all that stuff happens in the classroom. So as a parent, you can look over your student's shoulder and say, hey, what is that?
Yeah,
and
what are you learning?
And they should be able to do that.
And you can also, Mr. Walsh and myself are pretty heavy users of the Twitter, and through Twitter you can follow what your students are doing in the classroom. Pretty much every day of class we've posted something sharing what's been happening, so it's very easy to follow what your students are doing at home and also in the classroom.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways for you to get involved. I think it almost lends itself more to parents being involved if they want to.
Yes.
And not being intimidated by the subject matter.
Right.
Because I understand that chemistry can be pretty intimidating sometimes, to people.
It can be a fierce beast.
It can. So feel free to always email us if you have questions.
Please do.
Yeah, and here we are. We're ready to help. Yay.